All right, everyone, welcome. So this is going to be kind of an introduction video to Romeo and Juliet. And basically what I want to do is just kind of show you how the unit is going to flow for Romeo and Juliet and what to expect and where to find things and things like that. So um, the first thing I want you to notice is when you click on Romeo and Juliet, so Unit 2, you're going to see in week 3 um, of our semester that it says find Romeo and Juliet text here. Specifically tells you that. I'm going to have probably 10 people ask me where to find the text for this. So it's right there. Okay. So what I want to do is, and I'm going to open up both of these real quick for you. So this is the text, the original text of Romeo and Juliet. It's very long, right? So 99 pages. But what I want you to look at as you're looking at this is look how short some of the pages are. There's a ton of footnotes on most of the pages. So as you're reading, the pages are not technically that long. So this is one resource that you can use the for the actual reading of Romeo and Juliet. The other source that you are going to be able to use is the translated version. So what I would suggest, and if I were reading Romeo and Juliet, especially for the first time, I would use this version. So what you're going to find is on the left is the actual, oh, sorry, on the right is the actual Romeo and Juliet. No, hold on, sorry. My bad. On the left is the actual text of Romeo and Juliet. On the right is the modern text. Oh, and if I looked up there, I probably would have noticed that. So the left is the actual Shakespearean language. The right is more of like a translated version. So my advice would be try this over here as you're reading. If you're like, man, I'm having such a hard time with this, pop over to the right and use the right side. Either way, you're going to be fine. Okay. So just know that there are definitely those two versions there if you need to. If you want to use the other one that I showed you, absolutely feel free to do that. However, this way, if you're having trouble, you're going to have that translation there on the right if you need it. Okay. So as you click in, the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to read Pyramus and Thisbe. We will actually read this in class together, and we'll go into depth more about that, but the actual story is there, so you'll be able to read it. And then after you have the actual stories there, you have a bunch of different resources that some of the stuff we will touch in Class Connect, some of it we will not. So you want to be sure to look through and read all those resources. On top of that, there's like an introduction to Shakespeare, which we will definitely cover. The Globe Theater, which is super cool, and we'll talk a lot about the Globe Theater and some other things as well. So the first actual assignment that you have for week 3 is a prologue assignment. So the prologue is kind of like the introduction to Romeo and Juliet. And it's a sonnet, and we're going to go into depth about that. But there's an instructional video on how to do the actual assignment here. The content of the assignment we will definitely discuss in Class Connect. So I don't go really deep in depth into the actual content of the assignment. It's more of how to do the assignment because you got to move things around and it's more annotating and things like that. And it's just if you have questions on how it works, that's what that assignment or that video is for. So definitely watch that. So, and the prologue assignment, again, definitely something that will be very beneficial for you before you start reading. Okay, so that's the first assignment. So that's all in week 3. So the very first week of Romeo and Juliet. So after that, we're going to go into week 4, which would be the second week of Romeo and Juliet. And the first thing that you're going to notice is there's going to be a theme and evidence chart. So there's a video on how to use this, but I just want to point out that this is something that you will use all the way through the actual story and as you're reading. This assignment is not due until March the 6th, okay? So you're not turning it in until week 7 which is all the way down here. Okay, so you have to read the entire play before you turn this in. But you're going to open it up, and each week you're going to fill out information on it. Okay, or if you want to wait and fill out information every 2 weeks, it's totally up to you. It's not due until March 20 or March 6th. So you work at whatever pace you need to work at. So the other thing you're going to notice is that every um, class is going to have some class notes. So what I probably will be doing, and more than likely, any of our PowerPoints that I use for your class connects are going to go into this. Any of the any of the links probably to Class Connects, I'm going to put in here. So you're going to have that information. What's nice here is that you're also going to have an Act 1 summary. So if you're reading and you're like, man, I still didn't understand, even after the translated version, if you click on this, a summary is going to pop up for you. And what's nice about this is it's a nice short version of basically what happened in the play. So it just goes through and gives you a summary of what happened in Act 1 in very, very simple layman's terms. So nice and simple activity for you, okay? So then if we go back, you're also going to see, if it opens up, that your next assignment is a character assignment. Again, there's an instructional video for that. Assignment is here. This is in week 2, all right? So in week 2, you have the character assignment. You also will have an Act 1 quiz. And, oh, actually, I had the PowerPoints and Class Connect notes down here. So those will be in here. Okay, so you will have those to access. I might add these two together. That might be easier. Haven't decided yet. It may look a little different when you get in here. So just FYI, I may be moving those up to the class notes and all that stuff. So for week 2, your assignment will be an Act 1 quiz. And you're going to start on that theme evidence chart. Remember, you're not finishing, you're only doing a small portion of it this week. And you are also doing that character assignment. So along with this, remember back in week 3, you also are going to have those little grammar quizzes. So there will be a grammar quiz in week 3 and also in week 4, right? So they're going to be up through week 10 will be the grammar quizzes. So the next week is going to be week 5, and that's going to be Act 2. So if we look through Act 2, we've gotten rid of a lot of our content pages. Now we're just getting into the meat of the actual play, right? So we're going to do a Romeo and Juliet assignment, a film comparison assignment, which we actually will be watching a lot of movie versions in the actual Class Connects. So we're going to watch a Leonardo DiCaprio version, and then also a stage version. Not of the whole thing, we're just going to watch specific scenes. So we will be watching a film version here. So then this is the balcony scene, Act 2 class notes and annotations, summary. So you have all of that. Remember to read, you're not coming down here to read, you're always going to go up into that week 3 and grab the reading here. So the reading is not going to be in each week, it's going to be up in week 3. So you're always going to go grab that there. And then of course you're going to have a quiz and then the little grammar quiz. So 3 assignments for that week 5. So if we look down to week 6, it's probably going to follow a very similar pattern. So you're going to have a literary elements assignment. And then you are also going to have the Act 3 summary, literary dramatic elements content page. Then you're going to have the Act 3 quiz. And then you will also have the grammar quiz for that week. So then week 7, we have a combination of Acts 4 and 5 because they're smaller. They're not quite as lengthy. So when you get into these, um, the week 4 and 5, you're going to have the soliloquy and the summary. This will be an extra credit assignment. So what that means is you obviously do not have to do it. I will tell you this assignment is a little bit on the difficult side. I will go over it in depth then, and there will be a video here. I just have not created it yet. So, but there will be a video to help with that. So this is when your theme and evidence chart is due, right? So you started it way back in week 4. Now you should be wrapping it up and it should be due, okay? And then you have Acts 4 and 5 quiz. And then also you have the little grammar quiz, okay? So we will, after that, in Unit 3, we are still going to continue Romeo and Juliet for 2 additional weeks. And we're going to be looking at explanatory writing and an explanatory essay, but I will cover that at a different time just because it is a completely different unit. So this is where we'll wrap up. I do want to let you know, along with this explanatory essay in this unit, there will also be a Romeo and Juliet exam. So what that means is you took all these little mini quizzes. So at the end here, you will be assessed over the entire play and what we have read and covered. Um, and I can tell you, if you're looking at these quizzes, doing the assignments, and you've got everything under control, you should be absolutely fine. These questions are not going to be ones that trip you up. They're going to be questions that, if you understand the gist of the play and you're following along, then you should be good. So what I want to emphasize to you with this is that a lot of this you will need to read on your own. There are going to be certain scenes we will cover together in class and Class Connect, but we just do not have enough time in the day to read this entire play together. So there will be times where I will ask people to read certain sections. There are going to be times when we are going to be watching videos, part of the movie, going over some of the assignments and doing kind of like more explanation. There will be help sessions over some of the assignments if you need them. But that is something that's super important that as we're going through this unit, you are going to be responsible for reading quite a bit of this story on your, or this play on your own. So as we go through and we're discussing things in class, if you find yourself getting really far behind, you are going to not be able to participate in that class discussion, and a lot of things may not make sense to you. So my advice to you is to stay on track. So I will have a pacing guide for you that you will kind of, or like a weekly schedule where it'll be like, you need to read this, you should be reading this, you should be reading this on each day. So you're definitely going to want to make sure to keep up with that pace, or you're going to quickly find yourself behind. The other important thing I want to point out to you about this is that you can't really decide to not do this because it's worth 4 weeks and then 5 weeks with the essay down here, right? So 5 weeks of your English class is within this Romeo and Juliet unit. So if you would choose to not read and not do some of the assignments, you are very quickly going to find yourself failing semester 2. So my advice to you is embrace it, have fun with it. It is actually a really cool unit because of the comparison with the movies and just getting some of the more up-to-date versions, and then we're going to be comparing those. So so really just take it in and embrace it. That's my advice. I know Shakespeare can be very scary. I was scared to death reading it in college, but I can tell you it's one of my most favorite pieces of literature in the entire world are some Shakespeare pieces. So just make sure that you are going through and staying on track and staying on pace, okay? So hopefully that gave you a nice explanation of how this is going to work, what we're going to do. I am recording this very early, so some things may change before we get to those weeks. But for the most part, it's an overall gist of what to expect. So if you have questions about anything, please let me know. And I'm excited. Can't wait to start reading it.